Now, our last cost planning tip, tip 6 in the session. And this is a very hot topic today, especially in the FinOps community. As we discussed at the beginning of this section, cloud costs are variable, and that as such, they're very hard to predict. It's hard to predict, are you getting the best value of your spend right now? It's hard to predict what your future budget is going to be based upon a forecasted spend for your workloads moving forward. Forecasting cloud provider consumption as product or service consumption requires very specific data and tooling to be consistently available. Billing and reporting from cloud providers is difficult to understand. And it's also difficult to explain to traditional finance teams. Those teams are used to CapEx. They're not used to fractional share of services. The solution? By proactively enabling monitoring in your cloud environments, you can gather historical usage data that can then be leveraged to right-size current operations and predict ways to budget/optimize future spend. And this is the second demonstration in our webinar today. We're going to take a look at an existing Tanzu deployment. And for those of you who are not familiar with Tanzu, this is a brand from VMware. It's their brand for doing container management. And also in this demonstration, we're going to focus on the current state, as well as a right-sized recommendation and a forecast for this Tanzu environment. First, let's focus on what's currently deployed. Currently, by vendor specification, there's 4 cores of CPU and 8 gigabytes of RAM allocated to this workload. CloudGenera, through its API, has an integration to multiple monitoring platforms. And in this particular example, we're showcasing our integration with Virtana's Virtual Wisdom offering. Leveraging CloudGenera's API to gather utilization data, whether it comes from a third-party product like Virtual Wisdom, or it comes natively from like an Amazon CloudWatch, or Microsoft's performance monitoring software, or through other third-party products, you can gather that historical view of usage. And in this case, what you can see is that through leveraging Virtual Wisdom as a data source, we've identified the average usage and peak usage for this workload is 0.35% of what's allocated. So we're allocating 4 cores, and 95th percentile, we're leveraging less than 1 core. The larger the data set, the smarter CloudGenera will be at recommendations around utilization, both right-sizing current environment, as well as trending and predicting forecast for a future environment. With this utilization data in the CloudGenera platform, you can plan for either immediate opportunities to save money, in the case of driving a right-sizing of the current environment and specifying your threshold and tolerance for performing that right sizing. You can also generate and create a forecast. So predicting in the future when you may need a different instance and what your expenditures may look like in that future state. For the sake of time in our demo here, we've gone ahead and run 2 models. Again, let's come back to the original model. Our current state was a 4x8 configuration. And in that 4x8 configuration, we know we're leveraging a good percentage of the memory. We understand that we're leveraging a good percentage of the storage, but we've identified an opportunity to reclaim capacity by downsizing, by right-sizing the CPU allocated to this machine. And so running CloudGenera's predictive cost planning model, first, we're able to identify a way to right-size that machine. So moving 4 cores down to 1 core. What's the business impact of that change? We're going to do a comparison of Amazon, Azure, and Google. But again, if you wanted to focus on a single provider, if you wanted to focus on data center alternatives to cloud, all of that's supported within the platform. When we generate a scorecard, it's going to take that right-sized recommendation and compare it across the 3 providers. And observe each of the 3 providers, we would save money by moving down to an instance type that only has 1 core versus the 4 cores we had originally allocated. Next, let's talk about forecasting. From a forecasting perspective, we predicted growth in the future. Here you can see that over time, we're predicting that we're going to need 5 cores as opposed to the 1 we right-sized to over the next 18 months. In addition to the 8 gigs of memory allocated today, we're going to need an additional 3 gigs of memory based upon the trend of our utilization. CloudGenera is unique in that it's not just doing right-sizing. There are other products in the market that can do right-sizing. But the ability to bundle right-sizing as a way to plan for costs and save money today with the opportunity to predict and forecast future needs, either more instances or scaling up the instances that are already configured, this forecasting capability is unique to the CloudGenera platform. And again, to make it actionable, once we've estimated that additional capacity, we can rerun our analysis and observe, what was a few $100s is now creeping up to $2,000. But the whole point in proactive cost planning is that both the right sizing and that 18-month forecast are less than what we're spending today. And that's the key point. With proactive and continued cost planning, whether you leverage CloudGenera platform or other tools, you have the ability to find ways to save your business money now. And you have an ability to predict what has been hard to predict up until now, which is what that budget's going to look like in the future. What the configurations that will best give you a price for performance that meet the needs of your workload look like in the future. Now, let's summarize what we just chatted about in the last 30 minutes. With regards to optimizing existing applications for cloud, implementing DevOps automation to achieve pay per use in non-production can save 50 to 75% annually. We see this consistently across our customers. It's one of the most immediately actionable ways to reduce your cloud bill. Next, we talked about selecting the best instance for your workload. Companies like Amazon and Microsoft and Google are giving you way more options than you ever had available to you in your data center. That's both a blessing and a curse. The blessing is that you have more options. The curse is that you need to be proactive in making sure that you're leveraging the best options. When you're procuring hardware for a data center, you're probably locked into that hardware for many years, maybe 5 years, maybe 7 years. In the cloud providers are taking advantage of new instances from Intel, from AMD, from NVIDIA on an ongoing basis. And so the generations of technology that are available to you, the price for performance that you can achieve, and thereby the savings opportunity for your business is measurable and real. You could save up to 25 to 50% total cost of ownership by being proactive and doing the needed research to make sure that the initial deployment is the right deployment. And frequently it's not going to be the case. Again, because these cloud providers are evolving so quickly and they're able to adopt technology faster than was traditionally available in the data center. Third thing we talked about with regards to optimizing existing applications for cloud, taking advantage of your existing investments. And as you saw in our illustration in the cost planner demo from CloudGenera today, that could reduce annual total cost of ownership up to 30%. In fact, we showed one example that was over 30%, 50% savings by leveraging Bring Your Own License. Not available just for operating systems, but for certain vendors, also available for platform as a service. Second, we talked about avoiding unneeded expenses for born in the cloud applications. And the first use case we talked about is the container use case, where selecting the right worker node configuration can have real measurable impact on your expenditures associated with containers. In fact, using proactive cost planning techniques to ensure that based upon the scale and the capacity you need, you are sized appropriately, can avoid up to 50% total cost of ownership. Second, in this area, we talked about leveraging PaaS alternatives to infrastructure. We talked about the nuances of making sure that if you have a database that doesn't require additional services to be installed on the same operating system, that you might benefit from platform as a service. And as we see in the data, that benefit could be up to a 75% reduction and annual total cost of ownership to support that middleware workload. And lastly, the demo we just saw is forecasting spend optimization opportunities based upon usage trends. And the key point here is avoid the unexpected expense. By being proactive, you can have a budget that feels more real versus just a hope as a strategy that you're allocating the right amount of capital to support your future cloud needs. And by leveraging this forecasting capability to also look at your current state, you can find ways to optimize spend today. And as we discussed, in recessionary times, immediate opportunities that don't require huge investment are a godsend to reduce costs and to save jobs. Now, if you're interested by any of the 6 tips that were presented today, or you have other use cases that you're interested in, an offer from CloudGenera, feel free to start proactive cost planning today at no cost by going to cloudgovernance.cloudgenera.com. There, you could take advantage of pre-populated content that we've published to our cloud governance portal to help you make better cloud cost planning decisions. And if you'd like, extending beyond these pre-configured content, you could sign up for a 2-week trial of the CloudGenera platform and get access to the cost planning utility that was demonstrated earlier in the webinar today. And that utility would be excellent for modeling your own application designs, your own workloads, and comparing the different providers, the different data centers, and the different license models that are of interest to your business. To close, thank you so much for attending our webinar today. Before we wrap, we're going to open up the chat for some questions.
Hey, Brian, we had a number of questions come in with registrations, and I think you've covered a few of them. One of those questions had to do with how often is the content updated?
Oh, excellent question, Owen. Our content is updated continuously. One of the benefits of CloudGenera's approach to cost planning is that we are continuously taking in the latest and greatest pricings and configurations available from the cloud providers. And we supplement that with co-location and hyper-converged infrastructure as a service alternatives that folks may choose to run in their data center. And so this is an ongoing process built into the CloudGenera platform where we are querying the providers, we're identifying when they've changed prices, when they've added new offerings, and then those learnings get updated into the data service in real time.
Hello, Brian. There's another question that just came into the chat. Is there enough market differentiation to justify an in-depth planning process?
The short answer, Jim, would be absolutely. As showcased in a few of the examples today, these prices are highly variable. And differentiation is not just price, it's capability. And that's why we talk about price for performance. We talk about the best value for the spend, not the cheapest options. And so with all this variability, even within a provider, not just across multiple providers, there's definitely justification to do this in-depth planning. And as you saw showcased in some of our case studies of clients, this is not trivial savings. 6-figure, 7-figure annual savings. You know, again, that's real money that can fund other aspects of the business.
Excellent, thank you. There's another question here that we actually get quite often, so I'm just going to bring it up. If I've already chosen a cloud service provider, does your product have any value or applicability for them?
Absolutely. In fact, CloudGenera uses its own platform to optimize its use of cloud. And while we may run in multiple cloud providers today based upon the nature of our business, leveraging the product when you've locked in on a particular provider is just as beneficial as when you're trying to compare multiple providers. You know, we regularly find ways to optimize our spend around containers, which is one of the use cases we talked about today. We've been a direct beneficiary of transitioning infrastructure to cloud native services, which we discovered through leveraging our platform. It helps us on an ongoing basis and has become a part of our FinOps discipline internally.
Yes, so we just got a question just come in. Where can we find documentation related to the various CloudGenera capabilities you talked about today, Brian?
There are a few resources available to access documentation related to the CloudGenera platform. A lot of rich information exists on go.cloudgenera.com. And there you can find our white papers, you can find case studies, you can find product descriptions about the platform. And then I would also direct you to CloudGenera's YouTube channel, where we frequently are posting new videos and new content that showcase the platform's capabilities and how a business can benefit from leveraging CloudGenera to be proactive in their governance as well as their planning for cloud spend.
Excellent. There's another one that just came in. How can I explore additional use cases to what you've already shown us?
So if there are additional use cases above and beyond what you've seen today, as I mentioned on the prior slide, please feel free to go to cloudgovernance.cloudgenera.com. There you can access our cloud governance portal at no cost and try out different use cases, compare different providers, look at different application types. And then of course, the 2-week trial that's included at no cost. By signing up for that 2-week trial, you can get access to model any use case that you're interested in doing cost planning around.
Right, there's another one. Just give me a moment here. They just finished typing. All right, what market factors are you seeing driving customers to use your solution, Brian?
One of the largest market factors that we're seeing today is the inflation that all of us are feeling at home and the recession that's looming in the macroeconomic market. Months ago, money was cheap and the focus was on growth. And very quickly that has changed. The market dynamic has changed in favor of saving money. And that's been one of the biggest drivers for us over the last few months, are folks who are getting serious about their cost planning, getting serious about forecasting, getting serious about finding ways to optimize the spend. The macro level market and the challenges everybody's experiencing has been a big driver for leveraging products and technologies like those that CloudGenera offers.
Excellent, thank you. Another question here on FinOps. What are you doing around the FinOps practice internally in your company? Do you have any products specifically geared towards FinOps?
Yeah, from CloudGenera's perspective, we were FinOps before FinOps was cool. Our discipline has always been around helping people get the best value for their spend. And the first generation of FinOps companies have focused on show back and charge back. And those are things that you can definitely achieve leveraging the CloudGenera platform. But where we've seen a gap and where we're focusing on helping people is not in the rearview mirror, not in the reporting of the spend to show back or to charge back, but in the look forward. How can you get better at forecasting? How can you get better at planning? How can you avoid the expense as opposed to try to remediate the expense? These are the areas where we're pioneering as an organization. But all of the disciplines of FinOps we've implemented in our own product organization. In fact, we have a team leader who focuses on FinOps as a discipline to ensure that we're always getting the best value for our spend. And again, it's not just understanding our rates and understanding our usage. FinOps for CloudGenera and FinOps, as we've engineered it into our platform, is focused on the look forward. The how do we be proactive to avoid the unnecessary expense, to optimize the existing expense. And to the point of the question about do we offer products in this arena, there is a product specifically designed for the FinOps practitioner. And we've some of our customers call themselves cloud economists. And this bundle gives you access to some of the utilities that you were exposed to today. Cost planning interface, cloud governance interface, the ability to map and model very sophisticated transformations, not just migrations or optimizations.
Can I, here's another, can I use your technology to compare against what I already have in-house?
Absolutely. One of the things we mentioned very briefly in the beginning is that CloudGenera does not have a bias towards vendor or service model. A very common use case for CloudGenera is to compare a current data center operation to public cloud alternatives and hyper-converged infrastructure as a service alternatives like Dell Apex and HPE GreenLake. So the CloudGenera platform is very well suited, in fact, uniquely positioned to help customers understand the unit economics of running the data center, running in co-location, and running in cloud. So absolutely, yes, you can compare your existing operation to those alternatives that are available in the market. That is a core value of ours.
All right, I just got one that just came in. When we talk about cost overruns, we do have cloud native solutions that provided advisories on right sizing of instance or optimization aspects of resources. How does CloudGenera differ from these cloud service provider native tools?
Yeah, excellent question. And so Amazon has the Cost Explorer, Microsoft has their cost management, Google has BigQuery. And when you look at those three tools as examples, they're very well positioned to report on the historicals. Again, how do I do chargeback? How do I do showback? Amazon's beginning to introduce some simple forecasting capability, but nothing to the depth and the richness that is offered by the CloudGenera platform. So our differentiation continues to be being able to see the future, being able to recommend transformation, not just being able to visualize things that can be turned off, not just being able to do kind of a straight line forecast of, well, we pay this today, so we'll pay this tomorrow. The ability to optimize as a part of the forecasting function is what sets CloudGenera apart. The ability to not have a bias towards a particular instance type, particular data center, or particular provider, but to see the whole market in an unbiased way, again, is another differentiator of the CloudGenera platform.
Excellent, thank you. That's the questions that we have to this point, Brian.
Well, team, again, thank you so much for your attendance and your participation today. Great questions. For any of your peers who might benefit from this recording, we will be posting this on our social media and on our website. And we look forward to hosting you again in the near future. Our next cost planning webinar is going to focus on the economics of databases. So we're going to take a deep dive on one of those cost planning tips we talked about earlier in this session today, which is around platform as a service alternatives. But this will be a broader dialogue around the economics of databases in the cloud. Hope to see you there. And again, thank you so much for your time today.